100 kilometers above the Earth's surface lies an invisible frontier, the edge of space. This is the Kármán line, the boundary between our planet's atmosphere and what lies beyond. What does it take to cross that line? To date, some 450 cosmonauts, astronauts, taikonauts, the names all mean the same, have crossed that unseen line. Cold War test pilots to begin with, then geologists, engineers and scientists of one kind or another. Mission specialists now come in all sizes and nationalities. Even politicians and cashed-up tourists have gate-crashed the space party. But how do you earn an astronaut's wings? As Chris Hadfield, the first Canadian to walk in space, has said, an astronaut's life is one of preparation and simulation, and training and support on the ground, and anticipation and visualization. And very, very seldom, almost never, is an astronaut's life about flying in space. In one sense, the key to becoming an astronaut is simple: brute force. But selection for space is an exhaustive process. Astronaut candidates must be fit, physically and mentally, to endure the rigors of training. High intelligence is essential, while bravery is a useful character trait. The current crew of astronauts have trained for work on the International Space Station, while others are working towards missions yet to come. They have one thing in common: they all consider themselves lucky.
I never planned to become an astronaut. I mean, I knew that it's a very small likelihood, and so as a scientist, I knew the statistics, meaning like, okay, if I try to become an astronaut, it probably won't work out. So for me, applying with ESA to become an astronaut was not as much a thing of me believing that I would become an astronaut, but more trying to give my dream a chance that I had, that I knew I was always looking forward or trying to see, do I have a chance to actually go there?
It also helps if you know how to use one of these.
I find my background as a pilot very helpful, just in the way that I've previously been taught how to follow procedures, for example, as a pilot, communication methods, working together in a team in an international environment. All of those sort of skills are very useful in this job.
Of course, I had expectations before I started. But the job as an astronaut is so unique. I think it's difficult to have a realistic sense of what to expect. So certainly some things have been what I expected. I mean, the excitement, the uniqueness, the wonder of human spaceflight is exactly what I thought it'd be. Other things, of course, have been different simply because it's such a unique world to train for a mission.
Astronaut candidates should expect a 2-year period of training and evaluation. Learning to live and work in extreme environments comes right at the start. Movie buffs will recall Key Largo in Florida as an isolated place for Humphrey Bogart. Now it houses NASA's Nemo facility Aquarius, training astronauts for both the ISS and future asteroid missions. Other unwelcoming environments used for isolation and team building include the Sagruta Caves in Sardinia, Italy.
The ESA Caves mission that I was a part of a few years ago, where I spent a week living underneath the ground in a gigantic cave system. The 2 NASA NEMO missions that I've been able to participate in. I mean, all these things are fantastic opportunities in and of themselves. And just having those opportunities without going to space would be fantastic. But so to have them and then to go to space as well is just really it's what makes this job so unique and so fantastic.
Of course, spaceflight training is not easy. I think that's clear. I mean, for 3.5 years, you have to travel almost every 3 weeks. You fly over the Atlantic, you're in different training locations. You spend about 5% of your time at home. And if so, maybe then just a weekend here or there. So it's a challenge.
Training takes us all around the world into every center. I've already done 2 or 3 orbits around the world, but just in a plane going from NASA to Russia to Japan and back to Europe. So it's already, the training as an astronaut in itself is already rewarding. I mean, it's already the dream job. And even better, it gets you to a flight in the end. So there's no time to be bored. There's no time to think too much about what you're doing. Every day you're busy, every day is a good day, and that's going to continue until the flight.
Use the ladder. Okay. Careful, and I'll just follow you. And we'll sit down there. We'll take off.
Space training in Europe begins at the European Astronaut Center in Cologne, Germany, where trainees learn the essentials of maintenance and repair of onboard systems.
You would be asked to actually either remove or clean or just inspect the filter. We would need to close the ladder.
They also continue their basic EVA training in another unfriendly environment, underwater.
In general, the training at the different locations varies quite a bit. First, there's the technical side, which means like we're training in Japan on the systems that Japan supplied to the space station. In Russia, we're training on the Russian segment of the International Space Station. In the US, we train for the US side. And at ESA, we train for Columbus and ATV, which are the modules that ESA supplied to the space station.
Next, the candidates move on to NASA's larger Johnson Space Flight Center in Houston, Texas, for extensive EVA training.
Training at the JSC is always very busy because we do many different things and it's a huge facility, so we're moving all the time from one building to the other. Like here we are in the building 9, where we have a replica of all the American modules of the space station. So in this building we train for the space station. Some of it is daily operations, some of it is actually off-nominal operations like emergencies, like in these mock-ups in this building. Just yesterday I did a 5-hour emergency simulation with my crewmates, with our full crew complement of 6 people of Expedition 42. And that, of course, is not something that you would call daily operations. That's something that we really don't don't want to happen, but we train it a lot because emergencies would put us as crew in danger.
Here we go.
HCN 1.2.
The great thing about being trained on emergencies is that it gives you a state of mind. Having the knowledge, having the training can help you in any situation, in any condition, just like it happened to me during my EVA. It was an unexpected emergency that we had not been trained for, but because you have received training that it's all encompassing, it gives you the state of mind where you look forward to the solution rather than focusing on the problem.
EVAs, extravehicular activities, sound routine enough. But spacewalks, as we know them, are among the most dangerous duties an astronaut must carry out. Preparation and safety-conscious planning are critical.
Behind me, you see a lot of equipment which is related to the airlock operations in case of a spacewalk. So we train this here as well. But there's also another completely different facility, which is the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. That's a huge pool, and in there we train for spacewalks underwater.
Neutral buoyancy training tanks are in place at ESA's Cologne facility and at Star City in Moscow. But JSC has the biggest.
EVA training is fantastic. It's physically difficult. It's one of the most challenging parts of the training, but it's also one of the most realistic. When you're in the pool for 6 hours, you get tired, but at some point you really think you're on the ISS, you look around you, and there's a structure everywhere. Sometimes you even get disoriented because that's what happens in space. It's like a 3D labyrinth of technology. It's a maze of technology.
There is so much going on here because we not only train space station, but robotics, spacewalks. So it's a very complex training system, and it's very exciting to be part of it.
I think one of the hardest parts of the astronaut's job is to retain all this different information over the 2.5-year period from being assigned to actually launching. Yeah, there's an awful lot of information on the Soyuz, on the space station itself, robotic training, EVA training, the list goes on. So to try and retain all that, the way that they do that is just by having refresher training really along our path to launch.
JAXA, Japan's space agency, trains astronauts in the operation of the country's ISS contribution, the Kibo experiment module, with its space exposure platform.
So this is nominal.
I guess it has a very Japanese flavor to it. I mean, the content and the way the content is presenting and delivered is pretty much standardized. But of course, you know, the instructors are Japanese. They have that very polite, very kind Japanese way about them.
In Saint-Hubert, Quebec, the Canadian Space Agency's Mobile Servicing System Operations Complex schools astronauts in using robotic arms on station.
Here's a station at scale, and here's a robotic arm also at scale. It moves and we can plan our maneuvers. As you can see, the main challenge to not hit anything while you're moving this arm, because all you got really when you're working, you come here. There's this workstation. You got a couple of camera views to work from. You got your hand controllers to move the arm, and you got the some computer displays and a bunch of switches here on the left. That's all you got. So you really got to think ahead how you're going to maneuver this arm without crashing into anything, because of course that would be a very bad day on orbit.
Star City near Moscow in Russia was the birthplace of manned spaceflight. It remains a key training center where all ISS-assigned trainee astronauts go through the program.
When you first start in Star City, you immediately feel like you're part of something bigger than just your own personal history, because your personal story, because you see people who've been here since the beginning. There's even supposedly Yuri Gagarin, his wife, is still living here, even though she's very old, she's still living in the vicinity. So you just cross people in the corridor, and they've known all those guys, and I was just a kid, and those guys were already in human spaceflight. So you try to learn as much as you can, you try to do your best for the technical side of the job, and try to interact as much as possible with the people, because they're so experienced that they have a lot to give you.
Expecting the unexpected is a basic training principle, like landing off course after the mission or touching down in the Siberian tundra. As NASA has no manned flight hardware of its own at present, the agency purchases seats on Russia's Soyuz spacecraft. All astronauts must be trained on the Soyuz systems, which poses a problem of its own. Everything is, of course, in Russian.
All the documentation's in Russian in the Soyuz spacecraft, and of course all the conversations in Russian as well, which is the reason for us having all of the Russian lessons during our training flow.
Not only must you know the Russian language, when in Russian spacecraft, you must also wear Russian spacesuits.
When the Sokol space suit actually pressurizes, things do become much more difficult to work because you're kind of fixed in your seat in a very rigid location, and it's hard to bend your arms and bend your fingers in fact. So even just sort of reading the board documentation can be quite difficult. But hopefully you won't be pressurized when you do a normal descent. Hopefully the spacecraft will come down without any problems and your spacesuit will be much softer, which makes it easier to move.
Here in Star City, I'm using most of my time in the Soyuz simulator together with my commander. Suddenly it's starting to feel a lot more real, you know, when you're sitting in the Soyuz and you're really going through the whole launch and landing sequence. You can feel that you're getting close to the date, and it's very, very exciting.
It's a very well-oiled machine, this flow to launch, and I'm confident that, you know, by the time every astronaut flies, you're really ready to go. You're prepared in every way.
As things stand, an astronaut bound for a 6-month mission to the ISS needs up to 5 years training, a requirement which will, in all likelihood, be intensified for future missions to deep space. The ISS will probably be used as a long-duration astronaut training facility for missions to Mars and beyond.
We are also all people that are selected to be able to get along with each other. That's kind of like the way you select astronauts nowadays for long-duration space flights. You really want to have people that are balanced, that are easy to get along with other people.
So much of our work up there is determined by the visiting vehicle traffic, and that's a very dynamic phase because we're not quite sure exactly which vehicles are going to arrive when. And these vehicles bring up a lot of science, they bring up a lot of hardware that determines when the EVAs are done, and also they of course determine the robotics activity that goes on to capture the vehicles. So when you're not quite sure what the visiting vehicle schedule is like, you're not quite sure exactly what science and when it's going to be done on board the space station.
One 6 months increment for the whole crew is around 300 experiments, out of which there's 55, 60 for ESA. So there's a wide array of domains like medicine, technology, material science, fluid science, everything you can think of. We're trying to make the most of the conditions in space and the microgravity to get results that wouldn't be possible to achieve on Earth.
So one of the things I've learned is you just have to be extremely flexible, and we get trained on how to do tasks that may be planned 6 months ahead of our mission and maybe planned 6 months after our mission, so that should there be some flex and those activities fall within our increment, then we're trained and we're ready to do those as well.
There's some leftover smell.
Whoa. Not good.
Not good.
Looking out of the window is really one of the most fantastic experiences that you can have from the International Space Station. Our Earth is so beautiful, and yet when you look outside you see that the atmosphere that surrounds our Earth is so thin. It's merely like an eggshell around an egg. It's so fragile, and the vulnerability, the fragility of our planet is very, very visible from on Earth. You see this blue ball and then above nothing, just black, absolutely nothing in this immense universe. And I would hope that more people would be able to fly to space, more maybe of our politicians, decision makers would be able to fly to space and really see the vulnerability of our planet so that we can finally start doing something about climate change.
Been used. So the way it installs this needs to be in the flush bin. We can come over here so you can see. Dual lock to get to the more forward side. Cut.
We're just so prepared. All the emergencies, all the possible failures, we train them over and over and over again. So we're supposed to be able to handle any situation. We sat in the simulator hundreds of hours. We know the systems inside out. So there's nothing really that we fear, I think, on the technical side.
Even with all that training, astronauts are well aware of the dangers of spaceflight. Riding a rocket full of explosive fuel, living in an enclosed environment with a thin sheet of aluminium between you and hard vacuum, solar and cosmic radiation, bullet-like micrometeorites and space debris. Then there is the threat of onboard fire or mechanical failure, and to cap it all off, the fiery return to Earth. There is, however, one problem that returning astronauts cannot avoid, and that's gravity.
When you get back home, of course, I will always remember this was the same for my first flight or for my second flight. The moment they open up the hatch and you feel this fresh, cold air coming into your capsule. This is really something. And you're out there, of course, in the steppe. You have this real soil kind of smell that you have. It's really feeling fantastic. And then they get you out of the capsule. And the first thing, of course, that you want to do is to contact your family, your friends, saying, I'm all right, everything is great. We will see each other tonight. And then you just want to rest and to sleep because you're so tired, of course, from this long day of coming back. And also the gravity is really then having an impact on your body. You can't, it's difficult to stand up. It's everything that you have to lift. It's hard, it's difficult. And this takes a couple of days. But after a couple of days, of course, you recover well. We have a very good recovery program here at our European Astronaut Center. Our people are really very focused on getting the astronaut back up to the level as he was before the flight as soon as possible. And then, of course, it's again, after a while, business as usual.
I'm reaching the end of my career and I'm being able to do a last flight and really, again, put at work for myself, but also for everybody else, all the knowledge and know-how that I've acquired during this year. It's a very great opportunity, and I'm really happy that I've been assigned for this.
There is another way of crossing that unseen line on the edge of space, by paying your own way as the ultimate tourist. A number of wealthy individuals have already done so. Soon enough, it will become cheaper and accessible to the ordinary mortal, provided he or she can pass the medical.
You know, when our test pilots and wonderful team that run Virgin Galactic say that we're ready to go, then I'll be ready to climb in and be the first passenger as such, to go to space and to become an astronaut. And from there, hopefully, thousands of people will follow me.